Yeah.
Everybody gets an A. Yeah, everybody passes. So luckily,
6, 7.
yeah. Yeah. I can't escape that. Every time I say it, I can't escape that. No, but
About 15 years. You didn't develop a Navajo accent.
not yet. No.
Not yet. Not yet. Oh man. Have you learned any new Navajo words? The core focus for Whatislife.blog, the podcast series, is to connect intricate moments of humanity, which thus exposes the beauty of us. We believe that all humans contain a story, and that alone is worth sharing. Welcome back to Whatislife.blog, the podcast series. I'm your host, Charles Horace, and today's guest is Lawson Cox. Lawson, how are you, man?
Good, Charles. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. You're coming to the end of a school year as a teacher, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Long school year. Tired. Get out of school on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, tell us about a little bit about who you are.
So my name is Lawson Cox, and I'm from North Carolina. If you can't tell by my southern accent, I don't exactly sound like Charles. But yeah, I'm from North Carolina, and I moved out here at 18, and now I'm 19, and I've been out here for about a year.
Wow, wow. Okay. 18, I thought it was 19.
I
That's
moved,
even younger,
yeah.
dude. Wow, gosh.
Yeah, I moved out here at 18. I just turned 19 last week.
Wow.
Last week.
Well, really?
Yeah, yeah.
And you didn't invite me to a birthday
Yeah,
party or anything
I
like that?
know.
Dang.
I know, yeah.
All right. That's okay. That's okay. I'll remember that though.
Yeah.
I'll remember that. That's okay. I'll plan for next year.
Yeah,
We'll plan for.
that's right.
Okay, Lawson. The focus of this podcast. We met up a couple days ago to talk about what this would be, and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, let's just focus on Psalms 37.
Yeah.
Psalms 37. We'll start off from there. Um, you mentioned that's been something that's been on your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the two most like monumental verses for me in Psalm 37 are verses 23 and 24. And I just kind of paraphrase, but they say, the Lord will order a righteous man's steps and he won't let him fall. And I think that whenever we try and do what's right and we're all in and we're seeking first the kingdom of God, the Lord keeps us up. The Lord doesn't allow us to slip. So that's been really, really encouraging to me that even whenever I slip, the Lord won't let me fall.
Is there a reason why that's been so heavy on your heart? Is that
I think because we fall a lot, and especially me, I fall a lot. So the Lord always reminds me with those two verses.
that's kind of like what I was looking at. That's kind of like the theme of the whole
Yeah.
chapter of Psalms 37. And what's interesting though, because I was looking at the ESV version on my iPhone, the title of that chapter is said, "He will not forsake his saints."
Yep.
And I was like, okay, that's a good title. But then I was like, I was doing Google. I was like, what's the definition of saints,
Yeah.
right? And that's a saint as a holy person or as a broad term is known for exceptional godliness, virtue, or dedication to a religious cause. Like someone that's like perfect. Someone that's like really righteous and holy. And I'm like, well. From the looks of this chapter, it doesn't seem like the person who's writing this, is like purely blameless.
Right.
They're struggling through a lot of things, and I'm just like, okay, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Like, do you think that chapter applies to people who are called saints or considered saints?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Because I think, like I said, we all fall. So even the greatest saints, even Paul or Timothy, of course not Jesus, right?
Yeah.
But any of Jesus's disciples fell. So I think that even the greatest saints that we see, especially, I mean, you talk about Peter, who was one of the cornerstones of the church. Think about how many times he fell. So I think that absolutely it goes over to saints as well, not just people who are struggling day in and out, because I think that saints are just a eventual place of where we'll be if we continue to rely on the Lord, you
Yeah.
know?
I had a friend that a while back, um, and I guess I'm just a nice guy, but she was like, "Oh, Charles is a saint. He's a really nice guy." I'm like, Really?
Yeah.
A saint? I don't know about that. I mean, like, I'm nice, I'm kind, but I don't know if I'm like, that level. So that kind of like perplexed me when reading that chapter, seeing that title, and then seeing the definition of saints. But
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, yeah, I mean, he will not forsake his saints. I think that sometimes we think that the Lord has forgot about us, right?
mm,
And it's like he hasn't, you know?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so that's also really encouraging. And I think whenever we remember that the Lord hasn't forgotten about us,
yeah,
we want to do better, you know? It's a form of
yeah.
grace.
That's true. That's true. And I'm thinking, and you just mentioned like a list of the apostles, right?
Yeah.
List of the apostles who were, considered saints, right?
Yeah.
Considered saints. And their journey in life was completely different than the majority of people at that time. And when I look at that, I think about you
Yeah.
just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit about you, because you came from North Carolina, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Right after high school.
Yep.
Right after high school, you said like what, 2,000 miles?
Yep. Yep.
About
2000.
2,000 miles on the other side of the country to the Navajo reservation for a whole year now.
Yeah.
On your own.
That's
On
right.
your own. That's wild. That's wild. Um, what does that mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot, you know. Obviously, I grew up coming out here, you know, week-long mission trips, and this place, like the res, has always meant so much to me, you know, like just it's always been like a second home. So being able to move out here and minister to the people, love the people, be around the awesome Navajo kids at the school, you know, it's meant probably the most that anything has ever meant to me, really, you know. And obviously that just comes with the Lord has given it to me, and I'm just extremely thankful that He has.
And this wasn't your first time coming out here, right? You've been
No,
here
sir.
before.
Yeah, yeah. So my first trip, we came out whenever I was about 4, and we worked here in Window Rock, and I kept on coming out year after year. Maybe not every year, but my dad has came out every year, and I came out at least every other year, you know. And then we do Vacation Bible School out in Steamboat, Arizona, and same thing, just being around the kids and working here with the Cross Nations. It's been awesome. But yeah, I've been coming out for about 15 years now.
About 15 years. You didn't develop a Navajo accent, huh?
Not yet. No.
Not yet, not yet. Oh man. Have you learned any new Navajo words?
Oh, let's see. Well, obviously you have the obvious Yate, right? You know, that's everybody knows that. But I didn't really know, you know, Yate Abena, right? I didn't know that until I came out here. So I always I'll say that occasionally. And see, whenever you put me on the spot and ask me Navajo words, I can't think of any. But like Hagone,
Okay.
and I've heard this funny joke, and it's I give credit to Keith. But I've heard this funny joke. You remember Hagone by turning into a Canadian. I'm gone, eh? Yeah.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go.
And then I the one thing that probably is my most consistent one besides like Yatte or something like that is
Oh,
oh, you know, occasionally I'll be back in North Carolina with some of my friends, and they'll ask me a question and I won't even think about it. I go, oh, and they'll go, "Are you gonna answer?" I go, "I just did. What are you talking about?"
yeah.
And then I go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
Yeah, but that's crazy though. So you left at 18 years old. What's the story behind that? Why did you leave at 18? Like,
So essentially, is what happened is we came out to the res in the summer of 24, and I was we were just working. We were doing vacation Bible school, doing all the things the summer teams that come out to the res do, right? And I just kind of felt the Lord like hit me in the heart, keep on hitting me in the heart, and he was just kind of like, "Why don't you move out here for a little bit?" And I was like, "Well, Lord, that would be really nice, but that's a really long shot, right? That's I mean, moving like you said, moving 2,000 miles away. I was like, that would be nice, but how is that going to happen?" And of course, never ask the Lord how He's going to make something happen or He's going to do it, you know.
hmm
But but yeah, so that was in July, and September came around. I was a senior in high school, and me and my friend, we went to go visit this girl that was sick, and she was in the hospital. We went to go visit her, and we came back. My dad is a pastor there in North Carolina, And we came back to his office and we were sitting down and talking. And I was like, hey, I would do I don't remember how the conversation got started, but I said, hey, I would do a 6 month internship, or a 6 month mission trip was what I called it at the time. And he said, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, yeah, I would. And I thought that it was kind of weird that he said, oh, really? And he was like, well, I have the papers right here. So he handed the papers across, and I started filling them out. And then obviously I raised support to come out here. And I only raised support for 6 months. That's how long my original stay was. And then I started teaching at the school. And the Lord just keeps on providing
Mhm.
financially and spiritually and all of those things. But I raised support, and I ended up coming out here in June.
And you just been living off of that support, or were you getting paid out here?
Yes, so I have whenever I first came out, my main intention was to help with the summer teams that we have here and across nations. And after that, I said, I guess I'll just do maintenance. I've done a lot of maintenance in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but I said, well, I'll just do maintenance for the rest of the year. And I went through the summer teams, and the summer teams had just stopped. I was over at Chuck and Sydney's house, and they said, what would you think about being the soccer coach and the PE teacher at the school? And I said, there's no better job, right?
Yeah.
I'm 18. I get to play soccer with kids. I get to teach kids soccer, and I get to play games all day. Essentially, that's what a PE teacher does, right? So I started working at the school, and then they started giving me a little bit just to help out with some utilities and food and
Mm.
things like that. And then eventually I went full time at the school, and so now I get paid obviously a little bit more, but I'm still supported
Yeah.
because I mean I don't get paid enough to survive,
Yeah.
but I get paid enough, and the Lord is really really gracious.
Um, yeah, so you've been out here before, but it's I would say it's a lot different than North Carolina, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Almost like it's, I mean, obviously it's on the other side of the country, so it's like a different state, a different place, different culture, but it's also the Navajo, I would say the Navajo Nation is almost like a different, country of its own. What are some of the similarities and differences that you've witnessed or understood or realized?
Yeah, I think that you put it perfectly whenever you said the Navajo Nation is like a different country, right? I've heard that a lot. The Navajo Nation is like a different country, and it basically is. Well, I'll go to the differences first. We live in a desert here, right? There's no trees, and people always tell me, well, there's a tree, and I'll look over, and to me, it's a bush.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, it's a bush. So that always makes me laugh. But there in North Carolina, we have a lot of trees, right? It's very humid.
Mhm.
Um, Gosh, a lot of traffic. I mean, just it's almost polar opposite. Here, obviously you live in the desert. There's not a lot of humidity, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever experienced
Yeah,
humidity, but it's horrible, right?
my hair gets really puffy.
Really? Yeah. So there in North Carolina you deal with humidity. Here you don't, but you deal with more wind because it's so open,
Yeah,
right? So that's why I always wear a hat, is because if I don't, my hair will be everywhere, you know? But but yeah, so it's a lot drier here, but the landscape here is beautiful. Now that might be because
Mhm.
I've only lived here for a year, right? But in North Carolina, it's like I always tell people here, if we look off of my front porch tonight at 7:30 or 8:30, whatever time it is, I'm gonna see the sunset. Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
As long as the sun sets, I'm gonna see the sunset, right? But in North Carolina, you really have to look for it because there are so many trees. And and yeah, we're a lot, I guess, closer, right? And when I say closer, I don't mean like closer knit as a community, because it's probably the opposite. I would say that Navajo culture, the community is a lot closer
Mm.
and a lot more intertwined and do a lot more together. Like I remember whenever Window Rock's girls this year went to stay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
watching all the buses come down and all the people stop on the side of the road and all that stuff. And so I think that here is a lot closer community wise, but you're
Yeah.
more spread out distance wise. But in North Carolina we're a lot closer distance wise, but more spread out community wise.
Is North Carolina, is it like a flat? Is it flat or is it kind of a hilly?
So I always tell people if I go 3.5 hours one way, I get to the beach. If I go 3.5 hours the other way, I get to the mountains. So considering that, I kind of live in the middle, right? So I come from a little town called Gibsonville, North Carolina, but there's a neighboring town called Burlington, North Carolina, and it's fairly big. And then you have Greensboro, North Carolina, and that's kind of the city that most people know. And Greensboro is kind of in the middle of the state, a little bit north. So we're in the Piedmont area. If you know anything about topography, I guess, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's what we were taught, that we're in the Piedmont. So it's kind of hilly, and like I said, it's really green, but it's not like mountains. It's just slow hills occasionally,
interesting.
or it might be flat, but it's definitely not as flat as out here.
Yeah, yeah.
The landscape is a little more rugged.
Yeah, I liked how you said that Navajos are a little bit more close knit,
Yeah,
as opposed to other places where they're more spread out. Um, like, see, when I look at you, it's really interesting because again, going back to you being only 18 years old and just leaving your family, leaving
yeah,
your community, leaving your everything, and coming out all the way over here. I would say it's a little bit different. It would be a little bit different for a Navajo who would be 18 years old
yeah,
because it's like almost that you're kind of like intertwined with your
yeah,
family dynamics and you're not really wanting to go too far out
yeah.
all the way on the country. Um, do you think that would be beneficial for an 18-year-old who's from here?
It could be. I think, I always tell people, like I do, of course, I love my family and I miss my family. But like we were just talking about, the community here is so close that I have, it's like I tell people all the time, I probably have 10 moms out here, that just call me son.
Yeah,
And it's as good as, it's obviously not as, my mom makes some killer potato soup. And no, I haven't found anybody that makes that yet.
yeah,
But you get that community aspect. So I think that leaving North Carolina and coming out to the res for me was a little bit easier, right? Because y'all are so community knit. And I think that a Navajo, an 18-year-old Navajo that left and went back, I think that he could find the exact same thing. You just have to go to the right place for the right reason.
I see.
But I mean, I think absolutely. I think that if I switch places with a 18-year-old Navajo kid a year ago, I think that we would both have beneficial, beneficial outcomes as long as we were
Yeah,
searching for the Lord and around the right people, right?
yeah, correct, correct, yeah. Because I remember when I was 18 years old, my parents didn't want me to leave.
Yeah. That's right. And that's one thing that you get into with a lot of one thing that I've realized with like a lot of Navajo kids, right? You don't want them to leave, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they're so community intertwined.
Hmm, hmm.
So it's kind of a tough predicament.
So you've been out here for a year. Um, you've probably witnessed a lot of things, seen a lot of things. Where do you think God is leading you? Or what do you think he's showing you?
Oh my, that's a tough question. I think the number one thing that I always tell people that the Lord is leading me to is to trust in him more, right? And that's a Christian thing, right? Like
Yeah.
all of us every day are led to trust him more. But I think that sometimes we get so far out on like the complicated things that we forget about the simple things. So I think number one, the Lord is leading me to trust in him and to rely on him. And I always tell people, like we were talking about financial, I would have never thought if you would have told me a year ago that I would be a teacher getting paid, even if it's just a little bit getting paid, and that, my support would be almost half of what, and I would never think that. And so I think that the Lord is trying to teach me to rely on him, to trust on him,
Mm.
and to rely on his faithfulness, right? To rely on his
Yeah.
faithfulness because like Psalm 37 says, he won't forsake his saints. But also, I think that from a physical standpoint, I have no idea. I have no idea where the Lord is leading me. I think that being out here has showed me, I think maybe one of the greatest lessons that I've learned in life so far, just be flexible. Whatever the
Mhm.
Lord calls you to do, go do it. And it's like I said, like I always thought that I would be a teacher. Um, at some point in my life,
Yeah.
I preach and things like that. So I've always liked to teach, but never in a million years did I think it would be 3 months after I graduated high school. And I always tell people I just teach PE, but it's still hard sometimes. It's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
teaching, definitely.
How do you grade your students like as a PE teacher? Is it like how
Honestly,
fast they can run,
I,
how many push-ups?
honestly, unless a kid is just absolutely horrible and is like, Coach, I'm not going to do this,
Yeah.
everybody gets an A. Yeah, everybody passes. So luckily, I haven't had to grade anybody yet. I just say, yeah, everybody's good. But it's kind of like it's kind of funny because like I have a few kids, and I'm sure you get this, right? Just anybody that goes to school gets this. You have a few kids who it doesn't matter what you tell them to play, they're just not going to play it.
Yeah.
They don't like sports. They don't like any games. They just want to sit down. They want to, talk to somebody. So it's been kind of like an interesting dynamic getting to work with those kids and getting to work with the kids who want to play and so because at first at the beginning of the year I was like, well, this kid he's not playing anything that I'm doing in PE. He's, nothing.
Yeah.
And then I figured out that you just have to work with them differently.
Yeah.
You just have to work with them differently. And it's like so I'll tell you a little bit about my schedule. Uh, Mondays and Fridays I have sixth, seventh, and eighth, and then
6, 7?
yeah, yeah. I can't escape that. Every time I say it, I can't escape that. No, but
Oh man.
but I have sixth, seventh, and eighth, and then second and third, and then first grade. And the second and third graders, the third graders are pretty athletic. They like playing sports, but the second graders don't. And they don't like soccer. They don't like basketball. They want to play. Have you ever heard of the game Infection?
Infection. Is it like tag?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's like if I tag you, you're it with me
Yeah,
until
you gotta lock arms.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just love playing tag. They love having free days, stuff like that. And just these past few months, I've been like, well, how can I get them more involved, right? How can I get these second graders? Because there's only three of them. I'm like, how can I get these second graders to really enjoy PE? So it's what I did is I just started playing with them. But it seems like since we've started doing that, they really enjoy it more. So I really that's one thing I really enjoy seeing what kids like to do, seeing how you can make it more beneficial for the students, seeing how the students can have the most fun. That's
Yeah.
been it's been a blast for me seeing how I can get the kids to have fun. And that's how it was in soccer as well. As long as they were having fun and had a smile on their face, it was worth it.
You said you played football too. Do you ever see yourself coaching football?
Oh my goodness. So I always tell people my cousin is probably my best friend, and he's probably more of a football guy than me. But we've always talked about what if we just got a team together and started coaching? We're like, how bad would we be? But but I think maybe one day, yeah, coaching
Yeah.
football. I think one thing that I really like about coaching soccer was kind of like the analytics, like seeing where everybody works out, this and just this and that, right? Just the small things. And with football, there's so many of those, right? So
Yeah.
I have thought about coaching football, and I think maybe one day I might end up if I ever have a son who says, "Dad, I want to play football," I think I'll be like, "All right, well, we're gonna make a team." But yeah, I think one day maybe I would coach football.
You were talking about a little about the economics, the differences, between North Carolina and then also over here, and I do agree with that because like I feel like so many people fight for the jobs that
Yeah,
that are here, like like the gas stations, the fast food
yeah,
places, the grocery stores, it's a like if you want a really good job here, like really like uh, the most steady job, you only have like three options. Well, first of all, you have to get an education, get a degree, and then from there, you either work at the school district, the tribal government, or the hospital, and that's pretty much it. Those are the three main consistent jobs. Everything else, I feel like everyone's just trying to fight for all the other
yeah.
jobs. Is it like what is it like the workforce for government, hospital, and education like in North Carolina? Do you know the
So so I obviously that's one thing I've always heard, right? Since I moved out here, hospital, school, or tribe. And a lot of people, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember telling somebody, but a lot of people are employed, by the tribe. And obviously the tribe, I mean, a lot of things fall under the tribe.
Hmm.
But for us there in North Carolina, it's definitely different. There are a lot more hospitals. So there are a lot more nurses, a lot more doctors. My oldest sister, she's actually a nurse.
Okay. Wow.
So there's a lot more hospitals. So there's a lot in comparison to the one, or two, I guess, rather hospitals, unless I guess Rehoboth as well. So three,
Hmm.
or those are the three that I can think of: Sage, this one in Ford, and then the Rehoboth. But those are the three that I can think of. Well, like I said, there are probably three in the span of, oh my, like 20 miles, in
Yeah.
North Carolina. There's a lot more hospitals. So you get a lot more doctors, nurses, surgeons, all kinds of things like that. As far as teachers, same things. A lot of schools. Um, Tons of schools. Like the school that I went to, I went there most of went to public school for about a half a year. But the private school that I go to, or went to rather, I promise I'm not still in school. No. But the private school that I went to, there was another school right down the road, and then if I remember right, there was another one right down the road,
Wow.
you know?
Jeez.
So just tons of schools. And obviously like you get the elementary
Mhm.
and middle school, high school, things like that. But there are a lot of schools. So you get a lot of teachers. Um One career I feel like I found very common in North Carolina, especially whenever I tell people that I'm a teacher, maybe 25% of the time I'll get, well, I taught for
Yeah.
20 years, or I taught for 30 years. So teaching is very common. And it's the same thing as out here. Teaching is
Mhm.
very common. Um, Working at the hospital is very common. And then our government, obviously we don't have a tribe, right? So
Yeah.
I mean we're state or federal or city. There are a lot more police officers, sheriffs, things like that. Like I think there are 400 police officers for the whole Navajo Nation, or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
some number that's way lower than it should be,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But for us, we have, I mean, just tons of police. I mean, you'll see, police all the time. And like I was talking about the small town that I live in, Gibsonville, it's not a big town. I mean, it's really not. It's a small town, but there are tons of or it seems like there are tons of police officers. And then, we have more big cities, obviously. Like Window Rock, they have kind of like one of their police stations here. If is that correct? They do, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, we probably have in the span of 30 miles, 40 miles, maybe four or five police stations that are for different cities, because the cities are so compact. So you get a lot more police officers, which means that people really don't like them, right? Because there's a lot of them. Uh, but it's also this aspect, and this was something I was over at the Quality Inn. When was this? Monday, and eating, not staying, eating, but there are always tons of politicians in there,
Yeah.
right? That's kind of the politician meetup. Well, in North Carolina, you don't really see politicians. It's not like how it is here. You just don't see them. So it's kind of like it's almost like off in the distance, kind of
Yeah.
here you almost see your politicians and you maybe recognize them. You see the people that are working in the tribe. In North Carolina, it's just not really like that. They're just kind of off in the distance. And that's also because I mean, obviously, like I said, there's a lot more people, right? So there's a lot more kind of danger risk, I guess you could say, but you don't really see them, so they're kind of like they're just distant.
Yeah.
And here it's like obviously we're in the capital, right? So a
Hmm.
bunch of the politicians are here, but are here in Window Rock, but so you see them more, and I've always thought that that's kind of cool. I've always thought that's a cool dynamic. You could go to Bashes and see, Boo or somebody, somebody crazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I like the government aspect out here because you just see it more, right?
Right.
It's more
Yeah.
personal, and I can't even vote out here, but it's still more personal. And North Carolina to me, it's just not really like that.
Yeah.
It's more distant, and it's like I said, that's probably because there's more people,
Mhm.
in smaller areas, a lot more to run for, things like that. I mean, when I say a lot more to run for, I mean a lot more small towns, so each town has their
Yeah,
own, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Local celebrities are pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
uh, do you know? Have you ever watched the comedy of James and Ernie?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Have you ever see Ernie around?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Okay, so yeah, see, he'll pop up every there. Like, oh hey, look at
Really?
this. He'll just be eating his soup or something,
Really?
eating his sandwich, or he's working out at the wellness
Okay.
center. I was like, oh, is that Ernie? I was like, it is him.
Yeah.
I never talked to him. He probably gets it all the time.
Yeah, it's right.
Yeah.
Wow. See, for us, our local celebrities are mostly, and I was just before you came over, I was watching some NASCAR qualifying on TV. But one of the biggest like local celebrities that we get are just NASCAR drivers.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you're into, are you into racing?
Well, I would love to be. I just never really had the time to get into it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is. It's very time consuming. That's what I always tell people, right? Like, if I have time to sit down and watch the last 5 laps, I'll watch them. But I'm not usually going to watch the whole race. But like Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, all those guys, they're most of them are from North Carolina. So I always tell people, North Carolina, we love to race. You know, like
Yeah,
that's kind of
yeah.
like that's kind of our thing. Like my dad was big into racing. I love racing. I've never really, I mean, been like hands on into racing.
Mhm.
But obviously I love cars, you know, and things like that. But yeah, so we get a lot of like Richard Petty. You'll see him at the gas station,
Yeah.
kind of like you said about Ernie, and it'll just be like, "Is that? Is that?" And you know they call him the king, so like it's always funny, you know, because you're like, "Is that the king?" Then you're like, "What am I even talking about?" You know?
Yeah. You've been here for about a year now. What is something you would like to see grow or, progress, I guess, here from as someone who's from almost like an outsider who hasn't grown up here, but you've seen a different culture and you've come into here to a new culture. What is something that you hope to see, grow here or happen here?
I think the biggest thing that I want to see grow here is more youth ministry, right? And more kids being on fire for the Lord, right?
Hmm.
Like I think like you've kind of illustrated this in talking, you know, like people kind of, you know, you move 2,000 miles away and people think, you know, wow, you know, he's this saint, he's this great guy. And I'm just like anybody else. I'm just on fire for the Lord. Somebody just gave me the opportunity. And I think, and obviously, you know, that opportunity, even though somebody gave me that, it still came from the Lord, right? But I think the biggest thing is youth ministry because I think that whenever young people begin to see that serving the Lord is fun, they're going to want to do it for the rest of their life. And you know, that's what I always tell people. That's what I always tell the kids, all of our teams. I want to show people that you can serve the Lord and have fun. That's why I mean, I like to laugh. You know, we like to laugh. And that's why it's because I want to show people that you can serve the Lord, you can have fun. It doesn't have to be this boring, stoic life. Like oftentimes whenever we think of saints, right, we think of
Yeah.
somebody who's,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, up front.
Long road,
Yeah, exactly.
very
Yeah,
pious.
yeah, yeah. And you know, and I wanna show people that's it can be that, but it doesn't have the Christianity, your walk with the Lord, serving the Lord, doesn't have to be that. So I think the biggest thing I'd like to see grow is youth ministry, kids serving the Lord, kids just smiling because they're serving the Lord, you know. And it's always good whenever kids smile. Like I talked about coaching soccer, it's always fun whenever I'm on the sidelines, we're winning a game, and kids are smiling because we're winning the game. They're scoring goals. They're making good plays. You know, I'm telling them good job. They're smiling. But it's even better. It's probably the best thing whenever you see a kid smiling because they're serving the Lord.
Yeah, like I said, serving the Lord can be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, what do you mean by youth ministry? Like summer programs or like all year long programs? Like,
I
how do you
think
see that?
I think a little bit of both. One thing that I'm hoping actually realistically, like I was telling you the other day, I'm about to leave and go back to North Carolina for about a month, raise some more support, obviously be with my family for a little bit. But whenever I come back in July, hopefully we're gonna do some summer kids sports programs. I know I can already think of one. I wish I had the flyer in front of me, but you know maybe some and not just youth for this one, not just for this summer, not just youth, also adult things. But I think the summer is a really good time to start it to be with the kids because they're not in school.
Yeah.
You know, they're not. I mean, you don't have to worry about. Well, obviously, if they go on vacation and they're busy too, but you don't really have to worry about most days them doing something during the day. So I think that sometimes we sit back on the summer, but I think we should capitalize on the summer.
Mhm.
But also, if you just do it over the summer, then kids are going to go back to school. They're going to
Yeah.
get with their friends, and obviously we've both been to school. We know how
Yeah.
that is, right?
Yeah.
You get back in with your friends and you forget everything, that you've learned or that you've done. So I think we should capitalize on the summer, but it should be a year-round program, and that's how you build the relationship with the kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Youth ministry is always a from my experience here on the res, it's always been a unique, complicated
Yep.
process. And I'm not sure how it is elsewhere, but it's just like, well, they say that there's a growing revival among young Christian people currently, and maybe so with the youth right now. Do you see that?
I think I do see that, and I think a lot of times the youth of today kind of get undermined, right? Like there's kids who like to sit on their phone, but like you said, Gen Z, um, I mean, I just know Gen Z because I've seen the stat, but Gen Z is on fire for the Lord like never before,
Mhm.
and maybe you don't see it, right? Maybe it's not broadcasted everywhere, but I'm a Notre Dame football fan,
Okay.
right? I
Yeah.
love my Fighting Irish, and last year we went to the national championship, and both teams before the game prayed and just
Wow.
worshiped God, and Notre Dame's quarterback got drafted. He still openly talks about his faith, and you think about all these college campuses that are going crazy for the Lord, right? Like ECU, Eastern Carolina. That's a college close to me. I actually have a few friends that go there and that have went there, and they say that they're having revival like never
Yeah.
before. So I think, yeah, definitely young kids and especially college students
Mhm.
and high school students even, they're getting more on fire for the Lord. We're having that revival that you were talking about. But on the Navajo Nation, it's harder because there aren't any churches.
Mhm.
There are, well, when I say there are no churches, I don't mean there are no churches in general, but there aren't a lot of churches who do youth ministry.
Yeah.
So kids don't have anywhere to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's where we're missing out here as far as youth ministry. It's just giving them a place to go, right? Just
Interesting.
giving them a place to go.
Interesting. I like that. Like, because when I look at churches here, I just think like there is no children. There are
Yeah,
no children.
exactly. Yeah,
I look at my own church. Like I mean, there is a youth ministry. I haven't really been a part of it, but I remember we used to have a whole bunch of kids come to our church like every Sunday,
really.
and then eventually they all grew up. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Grew up and we just went our different ways. And
Yep.
so to maintain that level of consistency is a little bit difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's how it was out in like I was talking about, we do vacation Bible school out in Steamboat. Uh that's kind of how it was, or Steamboat Ganado. I guess more people probably know Ganado, right? But
Yeah,
but that's kind of how it was. We do vacation Bible school, and whenever we first came out, gosh, I think we've been doing vacation Bible school out there for 11 years, 12
yeah.
years, I think. There was a kids ministry. So whenever we left
Mhm.
doing VBS, kids had somewhere to come back to. And now they don't have a kids ministry and they don't have any kids in the church like you were talking about because they've all grown up and they've all went their ways. But who steps up and leads the kids, right? Who
Yeah.
gives them a place to go? And I honestly think that that's what a lot of kids are looking for. It's just a place to go.
You obviously have a huge passion for youth
Yeah.
ministry, and you see value in it, and that's great. Not many people are like that though.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? What?
I think like a big issue that we get into is a lot of people think that youth are like we were talking about, they're just on their phones, right? They just play video
Mhm.
games. And from what I've seen, and obviously it's really easy for me to talk about it because I'm still youth to most people, except for the kids that I teach, right? I'm still
Yeah.
youth to everybody except for the kids that I teach. And even some of them, some days they're like, coach, you're only 19. But I think that the biggest issue we see is well, number one, and it kind of all comes back to this for me, is lack of authenticity. You know, youth want something real, and they're searching for something real. And if you go to a lot of churches today, nothing's really real about them, right?
Yeah.
And here you kind of get more of like a real sense of church. Like the people who are at church because they want to be at church. Uh, on the East Coast, it's kind of more of, well, let me check the box.
Yeah.
So say we live on the East Coast and I'm a young guy and you're maybe, 40 or 50 and you're going to church every week, but our lives look the same. Well, why would I want to waste my Sunday morning if our lives are going to look the same?
Yeah.
So I think that the biggest issue I see with youth, wanting to come to church and all that things is lack of authenticity from adults, you know. But I think that a lot of adults kind of it's kind of like a it's kind of like a weird predicament in my eyes. And I've thought a lot about this and it's still a weird predicament, so it's something that I think about every day. But it's kind of like older folks, older generations kind of point the finger at the youth, and the youth is just like,
Yeah.
what did I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
What did I do? And like I said, they're just looking for something real. So I think kind of what you have to do is, if you're an old, maybe, you're an older guy, right? Let's say, I mean, we're both guys, or older woman trying to you don't have that passion, right? You don't have a passion for youth, and not everybody does, right?
Mhm.
Some people just aren't going to have a passion for youth. Some people just can't communicate with kids. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I mean, some people just, that's just not their talent. But some people do have that talent, and they're not using it. And I think that the biggest number one, I think the biggest thing, if you don't have that passion, is to be around kids.
Mm. Yeah.
Find a kid to mentor, find a kid to disciple, and a lot of people miss out on that. I think one of the biggest things that we miss out on in the Christian church of today is discipleship. And
Mhm.
it's like we were talking about, right? um you grow up and then you go your way. Well, what if somebody disciples you? What if a pastor takes you under his wings and disciples you, and like we were talking about, showing you that you can have fun being a Christian? Well,
Yeah.
whenever you, or have fun serving the Lord, whenever you get to that age, whenever you get to my age or
Mhm.
your age, you're gonna go, wow, that's kind of fun. I think I want to do this, right? And not every kid is going to be like that, right? Not every kid is going to stand up and say, I want to be a pastor. I want to be a youth pastor.
Yeah.
But it works for everybody. And I don't want to get out, but there's like intricacies everywhere, right? You could go be a teacher at Window Rock, and you talk to the youth every day. And maybe you never start a youth group. Maybe you never invite them to church, but you're a living example of what a Christian should be, and they see that, and that's what they want to
Mhm.
do. So I think number one, I think the way to have a passion for youth is to be around
Mhm.
youth, right? You can't have a passion for something if you're just looking at it from a
Mhm.
distance.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. And then I also just think that you have to be real,
Mhm.
you have to be centered in your Christian faith. You have to be centered in yourself. And you can't just, like we were talking about, you can't just point the finger at the kids,
Yeah.
because it's not just, they want something real. And they are going to listen, but we have to go out and have that passion for them.
All right. Well, I think we're just about done. And honestly, Lawson, I do admire your passion, admire your sense of faithfulness to God, and admire your sense of maturity.
Yeah.
You're very mature for a 19-year-old. Like, I mean, like I look back at my 19-year-old and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing
Yeah.
anymore. Like, I'm just going through the motion. But like, I mean, you got your own place, you got your own job, you're,
Yeah.
thousands of miles away from home, and you're just trusting in God. I love
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I definitely admire you, Charles. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's
yeah,
been great.
yeah. Well, since you've been here, what is one of your favorite like snacks or food that you've learned to love?
Oh my goodness. Well, of course, fry bread, right? Fry
Yeah,
bread like
yeah,
anybody. But I think probably the biggest snack, and I'm gonna double down on this, probably the biggest snack that I've found, and I didn't know about this. I've always had fry bread, right, coming
yeah,
out. But fry bread with honey, it is so good.
yeah,
It is so good. That's probably my favorite. Like, whenever somebody has fry bread, like, I'll eat, my taco.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'll be looking to see if they have any more, and I go back, I grab one, I'll be looking for the honey, and then, So I think, yeah, I think that's probably my favorite. Like that's probably my favorite snack here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
yeah.
say I love it. Mm, it's good. Or green chili.
Green chili.
Green
Yeah, yeah.
chili has really grown on me. I was never really a big spice guy.
Uh-huh.
I'm always like, why would somebody want to put themselves through that? But then I started eating green chili. So I like green chili, and then, but yeah, fry bread with honey is
Mm.
it's hard to beat. That's probably my favorite snack.
Well, I mean, it's almost lunch. It's lunchtime right now.
Yeah,
You gotta get some food.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, can I get this and this and that?
Extra green chili on
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
All right, Lawson. It's glad having you on the show.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Whatislife.blog is a marketing through podcast platform that utilizes conversations to promote opportunity exposure. If you have a business, product, or an idea that you wish to share, contact us at www.whatislife.blog or message us through a social media platform to be a guest on our show.